Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for The Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Wake up with the Nielsen Show with Dustin Nielsen and Lieutenant Eric. Weekday mornings 6 to 9 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get to know the winners, props, plays, parlays, and more with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11 on The Lock Shop. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey, Saturday mornings at 10, only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch, Sundays at 8:30, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Two guys and a goalie.
I think we're going to see some big things from Evander Kane this year.
You think so? Like if he stays healthy, like 40 goals or something?
He's used to Edmonton now. He's solidified, I think, his place in the dressing room. I think there's a comfort factor that takes a little bit of time.
Two guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Friend of EST, Eric Thomas, takes you around the track all the way to the checkered flag on Raceline Radio. Tuesday nights at 8 and Saturday morning at 9. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get to know the winners, props, plays, parlays, and more with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11 on The Lock Shop. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Oil Stream.
Last summer on the Oil Stream, you and I discussed the possibility of Gagne coming back here on a PTO. He signed with Winnipeg and got an actual contract.
Anytime you can have Sam Gagne involved in your organization in any way, it's a major positive for you.
They love him.
The Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey, Saturday mornings at 10, only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla, as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for the Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch. Sundays at 8:30. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's happening, everybody, and welcome back inside the Lock Shop here on Edmonton Sports Talk. If you are listening online at edmontonsportstalk.com, feel free to hit us up in the old inbox, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. What are you on today? What are you staying away from today? We'll get into all of that. As always, the Lock Shop is brought to you by our great partners at Coolbet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. And if you want to sign up for an account, use the code LOCKSHOP when you do. Huss, what's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
Well, that's what I have to apologize. I was just about to say, hey, what's up with the link? And I realized that you had texted me an hour ago about the show. Didn't quite get that. You can always call me, Dusty. You can always call. That's one thing in 2023 we don't do enough of: actual telephone calls. Like, we speak so much live on these streams and texting. I think I could count in the years that we've done this. I've known you. I think we've had less than 5 phone calls.
Oh,
ever.
buddy, I'm not even sure I recall 1 or 2. Like, are we setting the line at 4.5 calls? Is that what this is? Because I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under on that. I mean, we basically talk to each other every single day just through here anyway. And then obviously on text, we got a Lock Shop group chat that we get into as well. So there's lots going on there. I was just looking at my phone when you were connecting there. I'm in a fantasy football league so deep that somebody picked up Allen Robinson today. Think about that for a second. That's our 16-team league that has like 9-man bench. Like, it's super, super deep. And somebody just added Allen Robinson to their roster today. So
that's deep. That's definitely deep. Actually, speaking of fantasy football, should basically give a big congratulations to all the Puka Nakua owners out there and Tutu Atwell, everyone that got up this morning and checked out their bids to see if they got. This is always a huge week, and I know you kind of touched on it in the Fantasy 5 throughout the week and on the Nielsen show. But week 1, I don't necessarily tell people to stay away from like unloading the bankroll if there's a guy that you think you need to get. And obviously most of that's taken place so far. But
Puka Nakua was an interesting one, though, because Cooper Kupp's going to be back at some point, right? So if Cooper Kupp
better be.
Yeah, well, he better be. Yeah, you're right. You're speaking as a Cooper Kupp owner. I got no Cooper Kupp shares, but it's if Cooper Kupp didn't exist, I could see people really unloading the bank for Puka Nakua. But the fact that he does exist, he does come back. I don't know if you saw. I liked it. I don't know if I retweeted it. I think I retweeted it too. And it was like a picture, a meme of a guy holding a coffee and kind of with his awkward smile. It says, "Seeing I got the bid for Puka Nakua at 56%, nobody else bid more than 14." Like, just go out and lay down the hammer, right? Drop the hammer on these other fantasy owners.
Get your guy. You can figure out quite early where your squad is lacking. And listen, if you had Aaron Rodgers, if you had J.K. Dobbins, I mean, there's always a week one graveyard in fantasy football that you need to sort of negotiate. But listen, Dusty, before we get to the NFL, more NFL talk, and maybe this big Blue Jays game tonight after getting spanked again last night in a huge series, now 14-25 against playoff teams.
How bad is that?
How much did you guys get into Mike Babcock today on the Nielsen show?
Well, you know what? It's funny because the Babcock thing really sort of cranked up a notch right after Lock Shop yesterday. Because I was on Two Guys and a Goalie when the Blue Jackets put out their release. So we had Gager in studio. We were connected with Cass. So we kind of got into it heavily there yesterday. But then we circled back around. You know how our show is. We did have some fun. We basically had a little text contest on what's Mike Babcock's next power move. And the winning text of the day ended up being he's going to, as players walk into the dressing room, he's going to take their phone and add Edmonton Sports Talk to the home screen, which I thought would be like really nice thing to do. But like at the beginning of our show today, there was people in the chat kind of waiting, being like, "Oh, I can't wait to see where the boys come out on whose side they're on, Babcock or Bissonnette." And I'm like, first of all, I think the entire thing is just a horrible example of what's going on in the National Hockey League, Hus, in the recycling of these coaches, where I don't think it's really necessary for the NHL. Like, I don't think there's such a shortage of good coaches out there that you have to recycle Mike Babcock in the first place. I don't think anybody can really be surprised by what's going on right now. And, on the other side, I do think the Chiclet guys probably could have handled it a little bit better themselves along the way. So, the entire thing is just a joke to me on so many different levels. I'm not picking sides. I'm just like, oh, good. Hockey season's right around the corner,
Well, for the record, I can't stand Mike Babcock.
I don't know how many people can.
I will say this. When we talk about recycling coaches, this was a guy that not too long ago was seen as the best coach in hockey, got the plum job. I think you or I could have won a gold medal, to be honestly, with Canada, but whatever.
Any qualified NHL head coach wins that gold medal. Sorry, Mike Babcock.
Got that in. He got all the money from the Leafs. We know what happened there. He got gifted a great team with the Red Wings. But listen, I'm here for a guy that has, a great resume and cup experience and, getting another chance. I don't think that just because a guy's coached for a certain amount of time or been a couple spots, he should be not included. And frankly, I think experience does count for something.
He hasn't won a playoff round since 2013.
Well, exactly.
That's a decade.
Now we're getting into it. And
yeah.
But listen, I've always thought that Mike Babcock was a preening, power-hungry psycho. Basically, that, is there anyone that really has anything good to say about Mike Babcock? Like, let's start there, because there's a ton of people that hate the guy's guts. Like, have we ever heard anyone, like, people goes, you know what, there's a lot of people that are maybe being a little bit hard on Mike.
And those would be as much as
I am today.
Yeah, as much as you get in, that's as much as you get into that corner, right? Like, that's as far as you've heard somebody go with the. Like, you don't hear anybody coming out and being like, this is like, he's the greatest guy ever, and all of this is ridiculous. Like, everybody kind of knows, right? Like, we've already been through something like this. Did
you hear Frank Corrado this morning?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, Frank Corrado. So he, of course, was doing First Up.
Yeah.
With Cole Iacovo. And he said, listen, I'm not going to take sides. I don't know the particular information. I'm not involved in this. I'll just speak from my own personal experience about Mike Babcock. He goes, Mike Babcock does not give a shit about your family. He does not care about anything. He cares about himself. And then he went into, it was about a 2.5-minute clip. I think they posted it. It's well worth your time to listen to.
Yeah.
On someone that has had some experience with Mike Babcock. All I'll say is this: the Chiclets guys are probably as well connected with NHL players as maybe anybody. Period.
I would be stunned if they're not at the top of that list.
And it said something to me by the way that they. Never mind, didn't back off. They doubled down on all of this. So it's an absolute mess for Columbus, but I mean, I don't know what they were thinking in the first place. And not because Babcock has coached for a long time and he's a veteran coach, but just because of everything that went around him. And this charade about him going to the University of Saskatchewan, giving back to hockey and all that. I mean, you want to talk about character rehabilitation. And I think Iwanek said it correctly. Didn't he ditch on the team like just a week or two before the season started last year when he was getting into it?
Yeah, it's the whole thing is a farce to me. I mean, even the championships he delivered, I think a lot of National Hockey League coaches who may have not won titles could win one when you've got Scott Niedermayer or Nicholas Lidstrom on your blue line. Like it changes things for you to have success. I mean, he's been part of some really, really good teams. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's I hate to do this, but I'm going to tie it in. Over or under 74.5 points for the Columbus Blue Jackets, which happens to be their total right now at CoolBet. Like, do you think this whole Babcock thing ends up becoming a disaster in Columbus? Like, is this a year and a half, 2 years, and then it's done? Or
I was gonna hit you with my own CoolBet line on this. Over under 74.5 games coached for the Columbus Blue Jackets for Mike Babcock.
I mean, as of right now, if this thing sorts out, I mean, maybe it is, and then that would be it, right? That would be the fine. Like, you're not. If this ends in a tire fire at some point this season, I really hope we're not sitting here going, "Wow, Arizona Coyotes next year. They've named Mike Babcock their head coach." Meanwhile, Clayton Keller's throwing his phone in a bloody river somewhere.
Well, I know Johnny Gaudreau said what he said at the in Vegas at the media tour for all those top players. I mean, I don't know how true it is. I mean, I think there's a very difficult position that some of those players are in right now. Boone Jenner being one of them. Like, if he really was pissed off about it, you've got this brand new coach, the team's all over you to put out a statement. I mean, that's a really tough position to be in. All I'll say is this. We've heard enough people talk about some of the psychological stuff that Mike Babcock had done. I think a lot of that is gone for the most part in sports and professional sports today. People are treated like men, like adults. Babcock never seemed to be that way and really did manipulate players. I mean, the famous story of Mitch Marner.
Yeah,
the one thing that I will never get over, the fact that when you fire up Hockey DB and look at Mike Modano and you see Mike Modano's games played at 1,499 and realize that Mike Babcock scratched him in the final game of his career, which would have been 1,500, I think tells you all you need to know about that guy. And you know what? Like, we've got to know Rick Bowness here in Winnipeg, who's, you don't want to talk about a guy with a ton of experience that has been around. No one's done it more than Bones. Paul Maurice, the same way. I mean, you can have what you feel, what you think about the way that he managed his team and all that stuff. The thought of those men for a guy that has given that much to the game to be healthy scratched on what would have been his 1,500th game is absolutely inconceivable. And I think that Babcock ran his program. His head was so big. He thought that there were rules that, maybe applied to everyone else or basically just common decency, frankly, that wasn't there. So I am fascinated to see how this plays out. I mean, their training camp hasn't even started.
I know. I was texting with somebody who covers the Blue Jackets in Columbus yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, any interest in popping on the show tomorrow morning?" He goes, "To be honest with you, man, I'm still unpacking this one." I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, camp has not even started just yet. Just the last one on Babcock. And we got a couple of text messages. If you're listening right now on the live audio feed at edmontonsportstalk.com, you can text us anytime, 780-218-9999. Or if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to hop in on the chat there as well. I'm looking for the examples of when, like the Mike Modano, like, show me these examples of when Babcock's really helped somebody. You know what I mean? Like, They don't seem to be a long list of them. Like when something comes up from a criticism perspective on Mike Babcock, there's not all of somebody saying like, well, here's this article that was written about how amazing he was back in 2014. Like, it just doesn't exist. Like, the good track record from being a coach who manages people properly just doesn't exist. So,
well, and here's another thing. And I mean, listen, we all follow the National Hockey League closely, and anyone that's been around a team on a daily basis knows that, listen, there's a team, but there's tiers of players. I mean, you got your first liners, you got your guys that you need to, make sure that are happy. And then you've got, guys that are on the bubble that might be in the lineup, that might be in the press box. And I mean, all of those players are part of the team. Babcock, and I mean, Corrado gets into this a little bit, and there's famous stories about the way that he treats the players that aren't in the lineup. I mean, listen, it is the definition. I mean, everyone's got those stories of that asshole boss that they had, but the guy that was just like a POS human being.
yeah.
I mean, there's so much out there on this. I don't know what Yarmo was thinking, to be perfectly honest with you. It seems like such a strange fit, considering what they went through with Torts, who, to be honest, has a hell of a lot more respect amongst players, it seems, than Mike Babcock does.
Yeah.
That he's an in-your-face guy. I mean, they've got Johnny Gaudreau there on this long-term contract. I wonder how Patrick Laine is going to fit in. And just one more thing on this. I mean, I know Mike Commodore, not exactly the most neutral party.
I saw his video last night.
That it comes to it. But if you saw the second one, I believe he put a second one, or maybe this was in his video that he was talking about, and he kept referring to a very young, very highly drafted prospect. I mean, you couldn't help but think that he was talking about Adam Fantilli. And can you imagine Fantilli getting drafted by the Blue Jackets and coming in, and his first experience is being made to feel incredibly awkward by Mike Babcock? Like,
I was wondering if he was talking Kent Johnson, who's already been there for a little bit, right?
Put it this way. I mean, he didn't
Either
say
way,
who it was.
yeah.
We really don't know. But considering Fantilli was just picked, I'm sure
Yeah.
he's been around Columbus. I'm sure he's getting in. I mean, that would have been one of the first things you would think that they would have done. Something tells me this story is not over yet. But yes, Jake, Pat, let's get some Mike Babcock lines. Does Babcock last the season in Columbus? And then speaking of NHL lines, and I know we're going to spend more on that kind of in the next couple of weeks, getting closer to the season. Tons of player props are up. Obviously, you've got the Stanley Cup winning odds. Oilers, second favorite
in the league.
One behind Colorado at plus 855. I'm a little surprised at that.
In which way? In what way?
I'm kind of surprised that Colorado is lower than Edmonton.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was just like, okay, I wonder, do you think somebody else should be above Edmonton as well? Because I look at the rest of the teams right there, and I'm trying not to put Edmonton homer hat on here this morning, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably agree with you. I think the others probably should be the betting favorite for the Stanley Cup.
The New Jersey Devils are 11-1. Did I miss a Connor Hellebuck trade this morning or something like that?
I will say, as a host of Winnipeg Sports Talk, if you missed a Connor Hellebuck trade, you're not doing your job very well, Hus.
Hey, listen, the cool bet bookies, they're on top of this stuff. I mean, they get it on, and they get it right. And yes, the Jets sitting down at 55.
Man, when we look at these odds, like I'm just kind of looking at it right now as well. Sorry, I'm gonna cough here. Hang on one second. I'm just kind of looking at it right now as well, and I mean, it's just kind of wide open going into this season, isn't it?
Well, certainly by the odds are, yeah.
But I kind of feel that way in general. And Tampa doesn't seem to be the juggernaut that they once were. I think some people are expecting Boston to take a little bit of a step back. The Leafs are still just the Leafs right now. Carolina continues to be like San Jose of the East and really good regular season teams, but can't get anything done in the postseason. Like, I don't know if there's any team this year specifically that I would refer to as an absolute juggernaut like we've seen the last few years.
Well, I mean, listen, I know you don't want to go there, but I think the Oilers are. I mean, and to be honest with you, I mean, like, look at the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, did anyone from their team other than Riley Smith, who they had to trade so they could keep Barbashev, leave? I mean, they're set, ready to go for another one. Listen, I think the Leafs are going to be really good. It would be. For the rest of Canada, it might be stomach churning, but honestly, for hockey, can you imagine an Oilers-Leafs Cup final?
Oh my God.
McDavid, Matthews, like the star power, and I know it would have no U.S. teams. We don't care. You've had the last 50 cups or whatever since '93 when the Habs won. Like that would be the best scenario. And I know at some point we'll be able to bet on particular Stanley Cup matchups at CoolBet. The other thing that I'm looking forward to getting, and I imagine that this will probably come out in the next week or so because we've got division odds right now, Cup, President's Trophy, is the playoffs number. And we'll kind of bring this back to Columbus. But I mean, here are the teams that I cannot wait to get a playoff number on. Columbus Blue Jackets, maybe this, but the Buffalo Sabres, the Detroit Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
I mean, those three teams who are all right there. And let's not forget, the Pittsburgh Penguins missed the playoffs last year. So I don't know many people that don't think Pittsburgh, especially with Erik Karlsson, is going to, have a little bit better of a campaign and get in. Who's in? Who's
Washington
out,
missed the playoffs last year too, and they've been. I'm not sure there's a big bounce back coming there, but that's a team that had been in the playoffs forever, right? Us yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So those playoff numbers, and then obviously in the West, I mean, the entire Central Division. We were talking yesterday, and then there's so much uncertainty about the Jets. Obviously named Adam Lowry the captain yesterday. Hellebuck and Scheifele are back. We've heard the reports that, there's nothing really set in stone. But Kevin Cheveldayoff has been very, very clear. Their goal is to win. I know there's probably some fans that say, whatever, punt on a season, see what happens. Let's build for the future. Jets already have some great prospects that could very well be getting into the lineup next year. I don't think the plan would be just to run it with these guys as far as you can and lose potentially one or both of them for nothing. But there's scenarios where the Jets could be a really good team. I mean, 5, 6, 7 overall. There's also a scenario where things go poorly, guys get traded, and the Jets are, that window for the Jets, there's 32 teams in the league. It's about like 24 spots wide right now. There's a very, very interesting team as we get ready to see what happens come training camp.
Coach C in the YouTube chat says the country would not survive a Leafs-Oilers final. And I'm not sure. And look, it would be great for Edmonton sports talk if the Edmonton Oilers went on a run to a Stanley Cup final this year, because that'd be the right year to start something like this up. I think that would be excellent news. But from a man, I can't even imagine what this country would be like. Where do you think where would the rest of the country come out on Oilers versus Leafs? Like what's Manitoba cheering for? Who's Manitoba cheering for in that situation?
Oh, wow, it's a great question because Edmonton, it depends how old you are, but I mean, if you're over 40, you basically grew up 45, whatever. I mean, you grew up remembering the great Oiler teams of the late 80s. Like, that's how you're introduced to hockey, and your team always getting pumped by them. Now, that being said, the Jets did sweep Connor McDavid and the Oilers in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll never forget that. Oh, actually, we will, because there were no fans, but it did happen. But I really do think that, listen, Toronto, you either love them or you hate them. I think there's a lot of people, now we don't hate the Oilers like we used to around here. And frankly, I mean, they're arguably the most fun team to watch in the league with two of the best players on the planet. They're kind of hard to get behind. And to be honest, as much as the Leaf, a lot of the Leaf hate isn't about the team. I actually love Austin Matthews. I think he's incredible. I think Mitch Marner is one of the most fun players to play in the world. It's the Toronto media, it's the focus on them, and it's the fan base. So to answer your question, Dusty, I think the majority of the rest of Canada would be pulling for Connor McDavid and the Oilers. Obviously in the GTA, it'll be all about the blue and white in Alberta. What about Calgary? Where would Calgary come in on that?
Calgary, I think, would be cheering for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah. I'd be pretty surprised. It would have to be a pretty damn, a cold day in hell before, cold day in hell before the Calgary Flames fan base would cheer for the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup against anybody, Toronto Maple Leafs included. If you are listening on the live stream right now, hit us up, 780-218-9999. And Nash in Whitecourt texting us says, the Oilers would be the favorite F Toronto. So like that sets the tone. Like that's basically what the tone would be for a series like that, which should be good. Also in the YouTube chat, you can hit us up there as well. This is good. Like the expanded lock shop gives us some time to get into some of these other sports discussions, which is what we've always kind of wanted to do anyway. So it's actually it's really nice.
Listen, Wednesday during the football season is going to be the perfect time for that.
Yeah.
Because, and again, Wednesday's a huge hockey day. So I can tell you we've got a couple Wednesdays where I think we're going to be a little bit more open. Obviously, we'll get to this Jays game tonight in a minute. A quick look at some of the lines. But the next 2 days are going to be absolutely packed. We've got Thursday night football tomorrow. We've got our CFL picks for tomorrow. And then Friday, we're going to have our best bets.
Yeah.
We'll get into a couple of the parlays. And I think normally we'll have Patty or Jake come on Friday. I know you're going to be in Regina, so maybe we'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, we can probably catch up with them tomorrow.
Questions in on that.
Yeah.
We might be able to bang our CFL picks off right at the start of the show, give our thoughts on the Thursday nighter, and then maybe we get the partner parlay out there on Thursday, waiting for people with an extra day to find it and jump on with us.
Not a horrible idea. That's not a bad idea at all. And on top of all of this, we can always answer your fantasy questions. I do want to get to this one, Hus. We can kind of transition here. This is just an interesting one. This came in yesterday and then again today. Dusty, a Guillotine League. So a Guillotine League, lowest team would be eliminated. Those players go into the pool. I've done a Guillotine League in the past. Actually, it was quite fun. I haven't done one since, but I actually like the Guillotine League. Anyway, they have $1,000 in free agent money, so $1,000 in fab. Up for grabs, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Bijan Robinson. How much are you dropping on each of them? So they were on the team that got eliminated this week, so they go back into the pool. So you've got St. Brown and Robinson sitting there. You got $1,000 in fab. Hus, now remember, every week there's going to be a team that's eliminated, right? So you're going to have another opportunity to pick up some good players next week as well. Guillotine League is a great concept and a great idea. How much
might be the only form of fantasy that I've never played before. I've heard of that. And
you've never done a Guillotine League. It's pretty good.
I didn't entirely understand the concept of all the players go back in. That is wild. Well, listen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is a top 5 receiver this year.
Oh boy. So that's a big chunk. That's a big chunk.
For sure. Like, I think he's probably better than just about every receiver on everybody's team. So because of that, I would be throwing down a significant amount on him. And Bijan, I know that people are a little freaked out by Allgeier's touch numbers, like carries. Like, I think he out-carried him 15-10. First game in the NFL. They spent the, 6th pick, 8th pick, whatever it was.
It makes sense to work him in a little bit slower. And he was involved in the passing game quite a bit too. So
for sure. I think he had 6 for 6. So Bijan right up there as well. I mean, essentially, you're talking probably about a top 5 receiver and a top 5 running back right now. How did that guy lose?
I was going to say the rest of his team must be absolute garbage if he lost, because Robinson had like 18 points in my one league. Like he must have. He started Joe Burrow. Maybe that's what ended up happening.
Jake,
I mean,
by the way,
I know. I saw Jake's comment. I saw it. I was just going to say I'd probably be willing to spend up to like $600. I'd probably drop 60% of the budget to try to get those guys. Maybe even more. Somebody might even do like 80.
And it's going to depend on what your team is as to
if you have a pretty stacked team already and you're thinking you're not going to need much of that fab down the road, man, you might want to unload the whole bloody thing. Like if you've already got a really, really, really good roster, tack these 2 guys on, you might be unbeatable the rest of the way.
Yeah, and at the same point, if you're set at a position, I mean, don't spend all your money to get Bijan Robinson to sit on your bench or bench another guy on that. But,
good point. Good point. Anyway,
Jake, I was just saying wonderful things about the Leafs. It was their fan base that they were taking. It was taking a few scuds, but that's just the way that whole rivalry goes.
Jake from Coolbet on the YouTube chat right now, in case you're just listening on the online stream. And Jake will be hopping on with us quite a bit here over the next year. He says, I didn't tune into a September lock shop to be catching Leafs fan slander.
Oh, it is fan slander. Yes,
fan
indeed.
Slander. That is what it was.
Well, listen, don't get me wrong. The Oilers fans can be right there. Although the thing with the Leafs is just there's so many of them. I mean, it is an army, and it's not just in the GTA. It's everywhere. So fairly or unfairly, they are a little radioactive. But listen, I don't know what that number will be. I mean, the Oilers are 10-1. The Leafs are 12-1 right now to win the cup. that frankly is probably one of the more likely Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I'm so sick of hearing about, Canada hasn't won a cup in forever. Like, I do have a standing bet with a couple people from 2011 when the Jets got back into the NHL that the Jets were going to be the first team to win the cup. In 2017-18, it looked like that was awesome. 19, sure. Yeah, now we might need a few more US teams to win for a few years before the Jets are in there right now. But should be good. Hey, let's get to the
stick with Toronto?
The ball diamond for tonight.
This is I think I saw on Twitter last night. You mentioned it right off the top. Blue Jays are 14-24 against AL playoff teams. Even if they make the playoffs, you know who they have to face in the playoffs? AL playoff teams. AL playoff teams that they struggle mightily against. Somebody on Twitter last night, X, whatever you want to call it, it was a great tweet. I don't know if it was at me or somebody else, but maybe it might have been JD Bunkus. It might have been Bunkus who tweeted out the Blue Jays are the least clutch team of all time. And Hus, it's tough to argue that right now when you get these big games against these good teams and you just can't get it done.
Love JD and love his Jays takes. And he I think really epitomizes what a lot of fans are. I mean, listen, it's a roller coaster. And I know a lot of the big Jays are supposed to be just, hey, it was a nice win. Oh, it was a nice loss. It doesn't matter. I mean, the lifeblood of these formats is the energy and the motion that comes from the wins and the losses. So JD wears it well. But yeah, I mean, he's right. This team has had such great pitching all year long. 4 starters with sub-4 ERAs, a bullpen that's been pretty good throughout the year, and all that talent, and they just haven't been able to hit. I mean, Vladdy's season, has been very unfortunate. Bo's been unreal, but obviously got hurt for a little bit. I mean, I don't even want to bring up for Jake and any of the Jays fans in the chat, like this Dalton Varsho trade. I mean, I guess he's done some good things in the field, but the bat, and then you look what the guys they traded are doing in Arizona, and that is hard to take. I will say this, though. I still do believe that this team has enough talent that if they get there, they'll be a scary matchup for anyone, and they could absolutely go on a roll. But, man, they got to get it done against some good teams right now. And we go into this action tonight. It's kind of cool how close it is. I mean, the Rays are locked in at the number 1 wild card.
Yeah, those other two, though, are right there.
And you've got 3 teams battling for 2 spots. It's Texas, it's Seattle, and it's the Blue Jays. And the Mariners, who were so hot for a while, finally you can't get carried by J-Rod every single night. They're 3-7 in their last 10, although they won last night. And the Rangers had a horrible start to September. At one point, the team ERA after like 10 games was 9.43 or something like that. I'm just getting lit up. And the Jays recently had been pretty good because they were playing all those garbage teams. Now they got a team that's right in it. And to me, man, this game is so important. They cannot lose first. Is this the last game of this series?
This is the third. Well? It's a 4-gamer, I believe, isn't it? So this is the third. So I'm pretty sure. Yeah. There's one more. They do. Yeah, it's a 4-gamer. So
well, you know what the good news is tonight, Blue Jays fans? It's Kikuchi time.
I was gonna say it's Kikuchi. It's like from the Star Wars movie. Like, Kikuchi, you're our only hope. Like, that's because, look, everything you just said about how important this game is, we said 2 days ago. And then I said Keegan Matheson on my show yesterday. Is exactly what Keegan Matheson said. He goes, the next 3 games on the schedule could possibly, if they drop today and tomorrow, and all of a sudden you've handed 4 games to the Texas Rangers, man, I mean, there is still a little bit of time, but that's almost a death blow right there.
Well, and not to mention the Mariners are home to the Angels, who have completely closed up shop for the year. I mean, they're basically now the free space on the bingo card. To put it into betting terms, you want the Mariners on the money line? Minus 303.
What's the run line?
2.5.
Ugh.
2.5 at plus 105.
With that being said, I might still get on that.
But the Jays, here are the odds for the Jays tonight. And I'm jumping on the money line.
Well, you're a Kikuchi guy. That's your guy.
I am. But there's some good. Listen, there's a bunch of props. So minus 125 for the Jays to win, plus 110 for the Rangers. Your Kikuchi props are as follows: 5.5 strikeouts. The over though is minus 147. Hits allowed over under is 4.5. 115 on both sides. Pitching outs over under 15.5. So essentially, can he get into the 6th inning? Can he get one out in the 6th inning? And he had done that quite well up until the last couple of outs or a couple of games. Yeah. I mean, plus 115 on the over 15.5. I'll be honest, that the fact that it's plus 115, I think might kind of get me into that. I'm just trying to pull up his game log for the last number of games. Here it is. So he went 5 innings in the last game, gave up only 3 hits, 1 earned run, didn't get the win. The game before that against Colorado, 2 earned runs in 4 2/3 innings. Against Cleveland, went 6 full innings, gave up 4 earned runs. Baltimore was 4.2, and the 4 starts before that, 6 innings, 7 innings, 6 innings, 6 innings. It'll just give you his strikeout numbers. Last game against the Royals was 8, 6, 8, 6, 7, 6. So if you're wondering why that 5.5 strikeout number is minus 147, it's because he got over it 6 games in a row and 8 of his last 9.
You're on him.
I'm definitely
You're on him.
I've been on him all year. I was a believer.
You were on Kikuchi before anybody else this year, man. I will give you a lot of credit there.
Well, it is funny. I have a clip of JD, who we just spoke of. Yeah. JD came on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we were doing a bit of a Jays preview right at the start. And we were talking about a bunch of things. And I said, JD, I know you've been very hard on my guy, but I'm telling you right now, huge comeback season is coming for Kikuchi. And we laughed a little bit about it. He said, I hope. I said, hey, it's going to happen. And then he's continued to be, I don't know where they'd be without him. And by the way, is Manoah, did Manoah just tell them to F off when they said you're going to AAA and he's just done for the year?
It looks like that's it. He's done for the year. Like, can you imagine where this team, and look, pitching has been good, but can you imagine if they had last year's Manoah with everything else that they've got going on right now, buddy? Like they'd
be better than 14-24 against playoff teams. That much I can tell you.
100%. We could guarantee that. We could lock that in. So, I was on the Jays yesterday for the Lock Shot Play of the Day. I'm staying away from them today. I've got another baseball pick in the late game that you'll see pop up in the Cool Bet socials a little bit later on. So what exactly is your favorite play today for Kikuchi for this Jays game?
Well, I'm playing the money line, minus 125. Like, obviously, I like the plus 5.5, but it's a big number at minus 147. I don't normally play props that are that lopsided on one side or the other.
Yeah.
But I think, listen, this team needs him. He's come up big throat. I'm taking the plus 115 on over 15.5 pitching outs for him to get into the 6th inning, lead this team to a win. Get some plus money on the prop, get minus 125 on the money line, and get this team back into I guess technically a win doesn't necessarily mean they'll be in a playoff spot by themselves. Or no, they would, because the Rangers are a half game up. So they would go above the Rangers. So even if Seattle won, they would both be tied for the 2nd and 3rd spots, and it would be the Rangers that would be half a game out. I'll say this about this race, though. This final 20-odd games of the season, I mean, every night is going to sort of feel like playoff baseball right now.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, no, that should be good. Well, we had Keegan on yesterday, and we were talking to him about, because it was that crowd on Monday sucked. So we were talking to him a little bit about that. And he goes, you know how special it was, the 15 and 16 teams, right? Like, it was just like it took the country by storm. And I think a large part of that is because we hadn't seen the Jays do anything of that significance in such a long time. Do you think if this team gets in and gets on a run, like, will there be that same sort of sweeping across the nation, or is it just because it's a different group than what we had with Encarnacion and Joey Bats and that whole crew?
Well, listen, that crowd was really scary because of the time that it is and how well they've been supported all year long. Like, the Dome has been rocking this year. And I mean, anyone that's been there, I mean, the renovation stuff, I mean, Patty and Jake, I went to a game with them in the first week of the season, had an amazing time, got back there a couple more times that week. Again, it was April and the Dome was open and it was about 25 degrees. It was an unbelievable week there in Toronto, but that just sort of continued throughout the year. Now, hey, it was a Monday after the first week of NFL, the first sort of Monday of September that wasn't Labor Day long weekend, and people are back to doing their
Bills
things.
were playing
down to the Dome, getting down. Well, that's another thing, a great point. So I think there was a lot of things that sort of conspired. Like, I don't think Toronto fans are out on the Blue Jays by any stretch of the imagination. However, I think the patience is definitely wearing thin for a lot of them as to, you know, like, at what point do you show the team that you can be, that we've seen glimpses of, but just haven't seen consistently enough right now? And you know what? Tonight would be a great time to get that going right now because there's not a lot of time after this.
Jake and Pat in our Lock Shop text chat. Jake had this tweet. Blue Jays postseason probabilities based upon the Texas series. Texas sweeps 37%. Texas wins 3 of 4, 59%. They split this series. The Jays have an 80% chance. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good right now with if they get swept in this thing, it's significantly crushing their chances.
Well, it just goes to show how important these next 2 games are. I'm just going to look right now. So we had, I guess, is Gausman going to go in the finale?
Yeah, I would think.
Gausman,
yeah, it should be his turn. Yeah.
Oh my God, what a pitching matchup tomorrow night. Gausman and Eovaldi. So I mean, that one could go either way. Listen, they got Montgomery coming in tonight. You know, he's actually got a pretty nice ERA, 3.62 for an 8-11 record. But this is must win for the Jays tonight. They got to get this done and hopefully get 2 in a row and get this back. And as I say, they win the next 2 games, according to Jake, 80% chance of making the playoffs. You lose the next 2, you have less than a 50%. So it starts tonight. That's why I'm back in Kikuchi, -125 money line, pitching outs. I still surprised we're getting plus 115 on that, but I will happily take it.
Jam-packed episode of Lock Shop coming your way tomorrow. We'll dive into that Thursday night where the line has moved from 7 to 6.5. I see that right now. Yesterday was at 7.
Whoa.
It's at 6.5 right now. Looked like breaking news to you. I love it. Your reaction was great.
Well, that is breaking news. That is breaking news. I've been refreshing this line every hour since it dropped just to kind of see where I went. And I was wondering whether it was going to go. Like, I figured at some point people would start really getting on this as we got closer to game day. And are we going to go close 7.5 because the Vikings lost at home to the Buccaneers? Or, and by the way, and again, I don't want to take everything from yesterday, but we do remember what happened when the Eagles played the Vikings early in the season last year in Philadelphia. I think Philly won by 75 or something like that. I mean, that game was not even close. So I'm a little surprised that it actually went towards the visitors. But we'll also be able to get into those CFL picks. And Argo's still 6.5 over Alouettes. Elk still 2.5-point underdogs, although at plus money, it's probably going to get to 3. Bombers 6.5 in Hamilton, and then BC that went to 10 yesterday, and I see it's back to 9.5. Although I joked with Michael yesterday when we were doing the cool bet lines on Winnipeg Sports Talk, I'm like, oh, BC a double digit favorite at home against a terrible team from the East. What does that remind you of? Well, that reminds me of the Hamilton Tiger Cats blowing that beautiful partner parlay we had 2 weeks ago. I still can't believe it might have been 3 weeks ago. I'm still angry that BC no-showed for that game and lost the way they did. But yeah, tomorrow's going to be a good one. Fun Thursday nighter. Looking forward to the CFL picks, and that just kind of sets the table for the main event on Friday with the rest of our picks. And I think Patty or Jake's going to jump in as well. I think we start doing that. Let's start getting some thoughts on our picks for the partner parlay tomorrow. We can lock that in with the Cool.
Give it 2 or 3 day runway. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm going to do some fantasy football chat here for the next 5-10 minutes. Hus, what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, buddy?
The new captain, Adam Lowry of the Winnipeg Jets, joining us in the first segment of the program, probably about 15 or 20 minutes into the show. Our good friend Murata Tesh from The Athletic will come on for some more Jets banter. We'll get the latest on the Bombers as they get ready for the Ticats. And then for you NFL fans, one of my favorite guests we've had, a guy that I go back with. He's now at Sports Illustrated, and honestly, one of the best football guests we've got, Matt Verderam, jumping on today around 2:30 Winnipeg time. And then, of course, we'll get the latest, a little update on that Jays game and more in our Cool Bet Line segment. But yeah, Lowry, Atesh, NFL talk with Verderam, mix in a little Bomber talk. It should be a fun couple hours coming up at the top of the hour over on the Winnipeg Sports Talk channel. Like, subscribe, swipe up, all those things that us YouTubers and internet people say. Dustin.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you tomorrow, man. See you later.
Thanks, bud.